Find your message, find your passion, find your profitable platform, find your niche, find it. And then it's not as complicated as like, oh, I don't know how to start. Just find it. Like go out there, figure out what you like, figure out what feels good. And then the next part of the flow formula is loving it.
Put up your mask, let down your guard, and let's talk about the real. This is the Bring Your Own Mask podcast. All right, everyone. I'm so excited that we're back. My guest today is Jodi Kay-Edwards. She is an amazing lifestyle influencer and the CEO of Alignment is the New Hustle. She really focuses on something in which I feel like all of us should focus on, and that is business strategy and personal development brand that really helps early stage entrepreneurs first align themselves with their business so that they can scale and succeed in their business and be in this flow state. So her biggest mission is to really empower entrepreneurs worldwide to share the message, live a life filled with ease and intention. Welcome to the show, Jodi.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so first of all, I really have to ask you this question because I know that you're all about alignment and hustle. Tell me, how did you get here? What even brought you to the name Alignment is the New Hustle?
Oh my gosh, it's so wild because the name of my podcast is Alignment is the New Hustle. And the way it came to me was just, I was like sitting on my couch one day and I was like, you know what, like, I love Gary Vee and I was listening to his like hustle mentality, but I was like, there's a better way. There are people out here who are manifesting and finding the right strategies for how they want to live their life. And what does that look like? It looks like recreating the word hustle to say that we don't always have to glamorize the working 20 hours a day. And I'm not going to lie, it doesn't mean we're not doing it, right? It doesn't mean that I'm not staying up later than I'd like to. It doesn't mean that I'm not working weekends. It doesn't mean that I'm working a 4-hour work week. It really just means that I'm choosing an alternative to the grind and the hustle. And I'm grinding and hustling in a way that at least makes me happy. So I'm using strategies in my business that are aligned with my mind, body, soul. I'm not doing anything sleazy if I don't want to, right? I can still get to the success that I want by aligning myself versus saying like, this feels uncomfortable, but this is how successful people do it. I'm going to grind, I'm going to hustle my way to success. So the idea of like alignment is a new hustle came to me of like, I love you, Gary Vee, but there's a better way to do this. And I Googled it and I was like, whoa, this really isn't out there. And I saw like a few words that were kind of like playing around with it, but nothing in that exact order. So I was like, it's mine, let's go. Started the podcast. And then at that point, it was like, yeah, let me LLC my business as this. And here we are. Just everything. We mix the woo with the do is what we say.
That's amazing. I mean, I literally just this morning was listening to how some people in the past, right, they really glamorized hustle or like pulling all-nighters or really just putting themselves or their bodies in a state where they're deteriorating in order for them to succeed. And so when you're telling us that there's a way where you can still achieve success, but instead of deteriorating your body or like pulling all-nighters or just like grinding in general, that there's a sense of alignment or we can be in this flow state. That just sounds so awesome. So I cannot wait to go even deeper with you on this topic. And speaking of which, why don't we pull out our face mask? Because the whole point of it is to have self-care and make a lot of money and be successful. So why don't we let down our guards, put up our mask, and let's dig into the real.
I love that. Let's go. What's your mask? I've got like a papaya mask today.
I have never had that. I never had a papaya mask before, but mine is this Insta Mud. It's actually a 60-second pore refining treatment. And I just love it because it has this really bright neon purple thing that you'll see on my face in just a moment. But Jodi, I'm just so curious, before you started your business, where were you and how did you get to where you are today?
Oh my gosh. I was probably where someone listening is right now, just really unfulfilled in my 9 to 5. And I grew up in poverty. First of all, I'm not from the States. I was born in Jamaica. And being an immigrant in America already kind of has its own struggles, where it's almost like everything that you were once taught about like home or where home is kind of like out the window. And now you have to like acclimate not only to a different culture, but different thought processes. And I guess just like overcoming like being accepted because I was different. I was different growing up. I had a different thought process. and all of that. So before starting my business, I was really looking for community. I was looking for a place where like my big dreams could be accepted, and it wasn't in a 9 to 5. It wasn't like anywhere close to that. So I was like, I want to make it. Okay, I'm really gonna look like Freddy Krueger. This is so great. Oh my gosh. Match this up really quick.
We're all about this.
Oh my gosh. And I love it because I do face masks and I just talk on my stories because that's like a big part of my brand too, is just being me. So it's like this isn't anything new for people in my audience who might be like watching this right now or listening to it. But here we go. I like get into it. I use like the little Freddy Krueger like knife emoji and everything every time.
I love it. It looks great on you. So yeah, continue on your story because I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, it's just like I basically created what I didn't have. I didn't have that support that I was looking for. I was in the army at the time, and I remember telling all my friends about my vision and my dreams, and it would be like, "Oh, like that's nice." People kind of like support you, but they don't really fully understand your dream. I'm trying to figure out if this flaps on the inside or the outside. And when I started my business, it started out, I don't know if you were taught this way, just like one-on-one coaching.
Mhm.
And that was like the thing that all the people I was aspiring to be like were doing. And I was like, okay, well, one-on-one, great, high ticket. Had like my coaching at like a couple $1,000s, and it just got really burnt out really quickly in terms of like trading time for dollars. So I switched over to a recurring revenue model. And at that point, it was like I could do group coaching and do one to many, but then it really became like more about like the mission. Not gonna lie, like I started it with a mission, but obviously, money, the coaching industry is profitable. The profit margin, you have like low overhead, right? It's great. And got really into my community and noticed there is this huge gap. There's this gap between where people thought they should be in life and the education that they had access to actually get there. So then I was like, you know what? Lemon's New Hustle is going to be the learning hub for anyone who has a message and believes that they have magic inside of them and wants to get paid for that message. So I always say magic, momentum, and money, even with your brand too, right? Like this idea, like money is energy and we can really attract it, but it's like, who do we need to be to attract it at that level? So it's kind of
Mhm.
cool because as I was building my business and changing my business model, I was always faced with that question, like, who do I need to be to serve 100 people at a time, to have hundreds of clients at a time? Or who do I need to be to charge $10,000 for one-on-one or whatever that looks like? So the really cool thing about Lemons New Hustles, it's been transforming as I transform. And I share so much with my audience on my Instagram stories that it's like they're so involved in my business and my business plan versus like, oh, surprise, like I'm going to do this. It's like, do you guys want this? Like, is this something that would benefit you? So it really is a company for CEOs by CEOs. And the whole idea of just creating something I hadn't seen. That's really it.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing because I feel like a lot of us, especially immigrants, right? Like, obviously, you said that you immigrated here. I was born here, but my parents immigrated. And so, being a woman of color, right? It's really this mentality that we were taught that you need to hustle, right? You need to work hard, you're disadvantaged. So, for people that are listening that feel that way right now, how did you personally go from having that mentality of needing to hustle to realizing that it's all about alignment?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that question. So in all of those transitions, I always said that I had a choice. It could be as easy or as hard as I wanted it to be. Selling like high ticket could be as easy or as hard. Switching to one to many, switching to a membership model could be as easy or hard. And so in that questioning of can I practice what I preach in these harder transitions, I just realized that there is that better way. And so that actually brings me to like my flow formula. So my flow formula I utilize in all of my coaching practices, whether that's an e-course or one-on-one or membership. And it's this idea that we can break down the simple parts of starting and scaling and succeeding. So those are the three things. Like I'm really helping entrepreneurs start their business, scale their business, or really just both, whether you're starting or scaling, succeed in whatever it is that you're going for, utilizing the flow formula, which is the first one is just to find it. Find your message, find your passion, find your profitable platform, find your niche, find it. And then it's not as complicated as like, oh, I don't know how to start. Just find it. Like go out there, figure out what you like, figure out what feels good. And then the next part of the flow formula is loving it. So there's a lot of times that we feel like stuck in the decisions that we make.
Mm-hmm.
I want to teach people that if you don't love it, start over. Go back to the F, go back to refining your message, go back to tweaking it, and make sure that before you get to like the higher level income that you want, that you know there's a few steps that you have to do before you get there. It doesn't make any sense to scale something that you don't love. So in the L section of the flow formula, we're really like refining your message. We're making sure that you like being on Instagram, or do you want to be on TikTok? And it's okay if you want to transition over or use your TikTok to blow up your Instagram. And if you don't want to be on TikTok, you don't have to be. But it's also looking at the trends of like, hey, video is king and queen right now. So it's like, we really want to make sure that you're not just stuck in your ways, that you can utilize the trends and the strategies and the things that have been reinvented before us to just thrive and like do that. The next part is O, which is observing it. So we can't scale anything. We can't get to 5K months or 10K months or the infamous whatever 6 figures, all of that marketing jargon. But look, you can't make $2 if you don't know how to make $1. And you can't scale to $20 if you can't bring in $10 consistently. So observing it is we're really looking at those metrics, and we're looking at like, what do you need to track and tweak? Because I always say your success is inevitable, but I'm not the coach to go out here and promise that you can manifest all of this and that you can do all of this. I'd rather show people through the metric tracking that, hey, we can project your cash flow for this. If you found your profit platform, you found your offer, you found your messaging, you found your content strategy, all of those things. Now you can observe it to say, hey, like when I post on Wednesday, let me be strategic. If I post on Wednesday and engagement is low on Wednesday, maybe I should save my launch announcement for a Tuesday. So it's just that different type of thinking when you're in alignment instead of just doing. And then the last part is working like an aligned CEO. And so that's where I have done my job as a coach, where I've given my clients and my audience the information that they need to think this way, whether it's strategically or in a way that they can now say, you know what, Jodi's teaching this and I love her, but this isn't it for me. I want them to say that. I want them to say, this doesn't work for me as a CEO. This doesn't align for me. So the last part of the flow formula is really just making sure that as you're hiring your team members, as you're scaling your business, as you're doing all these things, as you're working on your personal development, that it's in alignment with where you want to go depending on your income goals.
I love that. And I love how you broke it down, right? The flow method. I love that you really just kind of broke it down for everyone that's listening, because it's true, right? Like when there's not a framework to work around or a framework to really follow, it's kind of hard to be in alignment in a sense, right? And so I'm really grateful that you just shared your entire method with all of us. For people that are listening, right? I already know what they're going to be asking me after this. That's why I want to ask you now. And that is, for people that are literally in the beginning stages and they're like, Kristen, like I've been trying to find for years, right? Like, I don't really know, like, how do I do it? What do you have to say to people that in their hearts, they know they want to do something, what they want to make a big impact, but they don't know what their thing is? How do they find it?
A lot of times it's just practicing that intuition. Like we get these signs all day, every day, these like little intuitive nudges. And whether we're asking for the signs or we're just living our life and they're happening, they're happening. So it could be like your heart beats a little bit faster when you start talking about something, or your eyes light up when someone is telling you something. I always say follow those intuitive nudges because you never know where it's going to lead. And too often we feel stuck or we feel like we can't find our purpose or a passion because we're too subscribed to hustle mentality. I don't want to simplify it, but it can be as easy as saying, I think I want to read a book today and reading a book today. I think I want to start a business that's going to help entrepreneurs start, scale, and succeed and doing it. But a lot of times we get so stuck in our head that we already have the answer. It's already been divinely given to us. We have the signs. We have people telling us, why aren't you doing this? And we're still saying, nah, I'm lost. Nah, I don't know, but we do know, right? So it's like, let's just wake up, stop the bullshit. Like, let's actually just give ourselves grace and move forward with
Yeah.
what it is that we want to do in life versus being too afraid to like take action.
Right. Do you have any tips for people that maybe struggle with making decisions in an aligned way? Walk us through your process of what it's like to just make decisions on the go.
My gosh, I listen to my body. And for people who are listening to this who aren't super woo, your intuition is going to be like your biggest business partner, like your best business partner. And if my chest starts to tighten, I ask myself why. And I'm really not getting too much in my head of like, am I going to lose money? Like, is this person going to screw me over? Or is this true? Is this fake? Is this person lying? It's more of like, how do I feel about this? Because at
Mm,
the end of the day, I can always go back to, well, it might not have been the best decision, but in the moment, you really thought it was going to be the best decision and you learned something here. So either or, I'm kind of always winning because I'm either failing forward. And the more I listen to my intuition, the better I get at not failing. So it's just like, if I allow myself to take imperfect action and go out on a nudge and
yeah.
check in with my body, like, does this feel good? Is this the right thing? The more I get these divine downloads, and the more like people will, like, if you start to believe in yourself, you will help yourself. So if you're blocking your blessings and blocking your abundance, the signs aren't going to come, the intuitive nudges aren't going to come, and you're going to feel really, really alone. But a lot of us, we have access to that. We just have to really practice listening to ourselves, that inner guidance.
No, and I love that you say that because again, even for me, right? Like I've been practicing using my intuition for many years. And I'll be honest with you, when I was in that hustle and grind stage, I didn't even listen to my intuition. That was not even a thing, right? Because it was just all about logic. You know, what is the logical move, right? And what I've learned throughout the years is that when you're listening to your intuition, it may seem scary. There are many decisions that I made that are super scary. And 2020 hindsight, I realize it's because it's that opportunity to grow, to stretch. So I'm curious if that has ever happened to you. Have you ever made a decision that was like, oh my gosh, what the hell did I just do? And then looking back on it now, you're just really glad that you did it.
My gosh, you know, this is gonna sound wild, but I honestly haven't, but I know there are people who have. I
Yeah.
have actually never made a bad investment in a coach, and I haven't made a bad investment in an e-course. But I know that's typical for our industry to say, like, oh my gosh, I spent $7,000 and I learned the big. I don't have that kind of story. But what I do have is people where I have trusted the wrong people. And I'm
Mhm.
talking like exes, even where I have gotten into relationships that I shouldn't have gotten into, or I wanted to be in a relationship with this person that just like really ended up really holding me back, or staying with someone for too long. If that kind of answers the question.
Yeah, I mean, just anytime that you feel like you've made a wrong decision or that like you feel like it was a wrong decision at the moment, but it ended up being a good decision. I think that practicing your intuition, it takes time, right? Like knowing your intuition. I'm still learning how to get better at my intuition. The other day, girl, I was literally on YouTube typing in how to test your intuition quizzes. I don't know if you ever took any of those before, but I was like, I want to strengthen my intuition. I'm going to try to find a video to do that. So I just am curious, you know, because you're all about the alignment, you're all about the flow. And part of that is listening to your intuition. So for people that are new to that, how do they even do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm trying to think too, I don't know if it's because, like, I've really rewired my thinking to say, like, "Hey, I actually learned." So now it's, like, at a place where if it was a bad decision, like, I end up being really grateful for it. I'm really trying to
Yeah.
think of the situation. I honestly think, like, my last situation was just, like, I didn't book a return flight, and I ended up having to, like, spend a lot more money, and this was, like, 2 weeks ago. Like, I didn't listen to my intuition, and I was like, "Oh, we should have booked a flight," and we didn't, and then it was just a huge headache, but it was
Right.
actually like a really cool process that we had extra things booked that made it like, wow, I'm glad this didn't work out because I got more opportunities by staying an extra day in Miami. So
Mm.
that kind of thing where it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm glad I didn't. But in hindsight, I'm like, oh, like if only I would be able to save money if I didn't do this, that kind of thing. But listening to your intuition, it's really that inner voice. And a lot of times it's that first voice, but I don't want people to overthink it because now you're gonna be like, okay, well, my voice says don't do it. Then my voice says do it. Then which one do I listen to? Honestly, it has to be the little voice that feels right. Like, that's the tricky part of like being in alignment is you're gonna hear all these different things. And then it's hard to tell when like our ego taps into those decisions. So that's why I say like it becomes a gut feeling, but just starting, you can practice with little things like even like feeling what you feel like wearing. Does that make sense? Like going into your closet and see what piece of clothing is calling you for the day. I do that every day and it's so fun. Like I dress for my mood every single day and it's like this is gonna sound wild, but it really helps me to feel better when I'm showing up creating content, when I'm sitting down at my desk working. I work full time for myself. I'm working on my business or like at a photo shoot or like helping a client or something. And I always take a look at like, well, if I was wearing this, I would feel different and I would act different. So that
Right.
could be something as small as like what you're going to wear, what you feel like eating. How often do we say, well, I feel like eating this, but I'm going to settle for this? Or I feel like wearing this, but I'm going to settle for this. Or I feel like doing this in my business. I feel really good about going on Instagram and generating leads today, but I'm scared, so I'm going to watch TV instead. So
Mm.
it's like that little nudge, that feeling, follow that feeling.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that you are dressing for your mood because it's so true, right? Like even just a slight change in how you look, maybe even the way you do your hair or what type of piece of clothing that you have on really does step up your confidence level, right? And so it kind of reminds me of how I feel when I put on, let's say, my favorite top. And that feeling is probably the feeling that I want to look after, right? When it comes to making decisions, right? That lighting up. I don't know where it goes on your body, but for me, it's like my heart, right? When it contracts, that's when I know there's something wrong. When it lights up, like excited, that's when I know that, that's the right move. And so I love that you say that analogy because it's such a simple one for people to start practicing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So I would like to take off our mask now, and I kind of want to go deeper into some vulnerable questions I would love to ask you. For instance, one of the questions I want to ask you is, before you became the successful person and an expert, what were some of the limiting beliefs that stopped you from getting to where you are today?
The very first one was that no one would listen to me if I didn't have like all of the credentials or credibility. So it was like before the testimonials, we're talking like pages of testimonials before people shouting me out on Instagram on a random day or like just in my inbox. Before that external and internal validation, I really had this belief that like I had to prove to other people that I was someone before people paid attention to me.
Yeah.
And, it was like a few years in, I would say, or maybe like a year or two in, that I realized that there are some really amazing people out there with a small following and a small audience who have such a great impact. And
Mhm.
so I got really into this idea of impact and income, and that it doesn't require a lot of impact. Well, it doesn't require that you have like an audience of 10,000 people to have a huge impact. You can have an impact on an audience of 20 people, 30 people, 50 people. And then from there, you can really bridge the gap between how you can serve that audience to grow. Another limiting belief I had was that in the very, very early stages that people were lying. And it wasn't until I did the money work and really realized those were my limitations that I was projecting out into the world to be like, whoa, it's possible. I haven't hit this yet, but it is possible to have a six-figure day. And it totally makes sense if we have digital products that can support that. But I was so like, well, how can I have a six-figure day when I can only have X amount of clients one-on-one per month?
Mhm.
And then I opened up the possibility to say, I can charge whatever I want for digital access to me, not always like physical, like in real time, trading time for dollars access. And if I can get my traffic to flow enough, I can reach those numbers. I might need 500 landing page views for my landing page to convert at 20%, like about
Sure.
industry average for the coaching industry to, reach whatever I've priced that at. And once I was able to remove those limiting beliefs, like not only was I able to get out there more fearlessly, I was able to really serve my audience and then turn one client into two, two into three, three into four, and so on and so forth. And then the other side of it, I could also scale my money. Like I could scale my business by saying, hey, you really have like untapped income potential here. But the more people you reach, that's where the visibility strategist came in. The title came a few years into my business. The more I increase my reach and the more I increase my brand awareness for people to know about me, the higher chances I have of increasing my revenue. So it now became like I turned my limiting beliefs into a process that I actually help people with, which is increasing your reach and your revenue, your income and your impact, and trying to find like the brain connection between why we don't want to be as visible online
Mhm.
and why we fear making or generating money and why we self-sabotage.
Let's talk about that, right? Every one of my guests' limiting beliefs are so different. Well, you mentioned the lying thing, which is so interesting. Can you explain more about what you've meant by lying? Because I had never had that limiting belief. So it's interesting to hear that you had that.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that people might be embarrassed to talk about, but like I'm not. Like at first when I was entering the coaching industry, well, this isn't an MLM. No one is scamming you, but how? How are these people hitting $1 million from selling the same thing that I'm selling? It's just because I wasn't seeing the results because I didn't know how. Instead of questioning it, I invested in those people. And I was like, you know what? It's not the fact that they're lying, it's that they know something that I don't know. So
Mhm.
instead of having this limiting belief that it's not possible for me, I had to open up my mind and like heal my money story and fix my money story to say this is very possible for you. And
Yeah.
so the lying piece really came into like the numbers were just so big. The numbers were just so out of like what I could ever imagine making in one, my 9 to 5 at the time, or two, like my business that was just getting started. So it was like, well, if I can't sell my coaching for one-on-ones 5,000 for like 4 months back then, if I can't sell like these $5,000 packages, how are they doing it? And so then I realized, like, girl, there is so much you don't know. You think you know, you see the outside looking in, you think you know what you're doing, you think you know how to run a business, you think you know how to generate sales, you think you know how to launch, you think you know how to write a landing page, but that's your problem, is
Yeah.
you don't know what you don't know. And so I had to really have a rude awakening to say, leave these people alone. They're thriving, and change, and change it to like, whoa, I heard this person had a 6-figure day. That means I'm one step closer to a 6-figure day. It doesn't mean that they're lying. It means that I have a problem if I can't see that for myself. So
Yeah. No, and exactly what you're saying. I mean, so many of us struggle with that, right? That comparison trap. When we open Instagram, like it's literally in our faces, like how people are doing so well and they're talking about their income sources and their multiple streams of income. So part of alignment, what I've learned is that you have to be happy for these people in order for you to be at that level. And that's the one thing that I feel like a lot of people don't realize is that they want to be at that level, but at the same time, there's that resistance, there's tension between them and that person. So can you walk us through how you were able to bridge that gap between where you were before and where you're at right now?
yeah, it really came down to like a lot of internal work as well. There's the whole manifestation process, like finding my own peace with my own manifestation process versus like what everyone else was teaching me, and seeing that like, hey, like if I'm not comfortable looking at what's in my bank account, yeah, I can use all these different tools. I can use like dating my money. I can look at my bank account once a day. I can light a candle, take money on a date, right? All these different things that I learned from my mindset mentor. And if that didn't work, I could modify it to work for me. Bridging the gap really is all about doing what you can and creating mini habits until you build enough momentum to make that happen.
Mm,
So if like I'm not in alignment with something internally, let's say I really, really want that like XK month or whatever. And I'm saying X because I want you to put yourself, the listener, whatever you are looking for, whether that's $1,000 or $10,000 or $100,000, it doesn't matter. It's just whatever you want for yourself for that month. Who do you have to be to get that? And you can't be someone who's doubting yourself. You can't be someone who's afraid to show up. You can't be someone who's afraid to be visible. Yeah, I feel like I'm like going off on a tangent, but a
well,
lot of
no. This is awesome. This is awesome because, again, I get this a lot from people that ask me, well, Kristen, how can I possibly know how to become that person if I'm not that person yet? So, do you have any tips around if someone were to ask you, hey, Jodi, like, I would love to be, let's say, a 7-figure entrepreneur or whatever, right? But I have never even been there. I haven't even crossed that number yet. How do I step into that person? What would you say?
Yeah, that goes back to what we said earlier of just like cutting the BS with the things that we tell ourselves. Because there's this idea of fear. You're going to have two people. You're going to have the person who's like fearful of what 7 figures would be, knowing that they're a 7-figure earner, or maybe they don't even know they're a 7-figure earner. Maybe they don't believe that they're possible of earning 7 figures or
Mhm.
generating 7 figures. But you're also going to have the person who knows that that's their destiny, who knows that's what they're going to do. So this idea of like your success is inevitable. Once I started operating as that person who knows that I can't fail, I'm either going to learn how to do something better, I'm going to learn how to not do something, I'm going to learn how to repeat something. Those 3 options. There's literally no, I'm going to do something and then my life is going to be over. My business is going to burn up and evaporate and everyone's going to hate me. Like, right? I love that you're laughing right now because that's what I work with my clients on is like, what's the worst possible scenario? and we
Right.
walk through it. So it's like the first step is going to be the first step that's right for you. Maybe that's reading a book. Maybe that's creating mini habits. Maybe that's waking up. I don't want to say earlier because it's really just when you wake up. It doesn't matter if you wake up at 2 a.m. for the day or 2 p.m. or 7 a.m. or 5. It's just when your brain is like just waking up, it's in like a specific state. And that state is like working for you. So,
Mhm.
what a lot of us make the mistake of is instead of consuming or absorbing information that works for us, we consume information that feeds our ego and works against us. So as soon as we wake up, instead of reading those affirmations to be a 7-figure entrepreneur, we're looking at 7-figure entrepreneurs on Instagram thinking, why not me? Versus getting up and saying, absolutely me. These
Yeah.
are the many habits I'm going to create. So the first step a lot of times is to like figure out what you need to stop doing and figure out what you need to start doing. And
Mm,
then once you have that out of the way, you can start building those mini habits. It doesn't mean you're just going to wake up and meditate and run and drink green smoothies and have like 3 hours of self-care every day. And that's how you're going to be successful. Nope. It's going to be the fact that you can have the self-control to stop scrolling Instagram and go work on your business, that you can do the mindset work to maybe hire someone to help you get to where you want to be versus saying, nope, I can do it on my own. It's going to be you shifting your demeanor when you talk to people about your business. It's going to be you really getting honest with yourself on your self-sabotaging habits that you need to stop. Those are the habits of the successful people that we look up to in life. It's not that they're waking up, watching Netflix, scrolling their phone, feeling bad for themselves, crying to their friend, trying to figure out how they're going to make money, feeling bad about it. They don't have time for that. They've replaced all of those habits with something better that's in alignment with their purpose. I'm like straightforward. I'm like the no BS coach. Like I can't feel bad for people, but I can have empathy. But I'm like, there's always a solution. I promise you.
I love that. I love how honest you are. And I love how, in a way, you're very cutthroat, right? Like, it's like, hey, you either want it or you don't want it. And if you don't want it, then I don't have time for you, right? So that really brings me with one of my last questions, which is, you have so much going on this year. I'd love to know, what are you most excited about when it comes to your projects for the rest of this year?
Oh my gosh. So I've like shifted the last quarter to something that I really feel like is it. Like I'm going to be fully transparent. There's so many times in our business where it starts to feel out of alignment, right? And so I'm fully practicing what I preach, where I had this program, Six Fig Biz Booster, and I didn't love the name. I love the mission. I love the message. I love everything about it. But then as I'm going out on like more video shoots, I'm working with more artists, I'm working with more like celebrity brands, Six Fig Biz Booster just seemed very limiting.
Mm,
So the thing that I'm the most excited about right now is CEO Suite. And CEO Suite is really bringing that mission together where it's a community for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs, where people aren't just showing up to learn from me in this membership style. It's that we're having a ton of different people. And girl, I'm gonna be asking you some stuff if you want to be in there showing up and teaching after this. But it's where we can come together and share what we know, because when it comes down to my mission, it's learning is earning. And as much as I want to be the go-to business coach, there's so many different ways that people want to learn. So instead of just having a place where it's just my program and my methods and my this and my that, I'm creating this community where I'm first asking like my biz besties who I've invested in or who I've been close with, like you and I met like a few years ago, like a workshop or a retreat
mhm.
or something, right? Where I'm like, hey, I trust these people and I trust them with my audience, and maybe they want to bring their audience and we can create this beautiful space together. So that's CEO Suite, where it's going to be the C suite is the lounge where all the CEOs can hang out. And even if they're not into Facebook, they hop in, they take the information they need, they go, and we have the CEO dashboard where we're going to have all of the replays accessible and people can pick and choose. It's not like, hey, I have to do this e-course from start to finish. It's what's in alignment with you right now. What stage of your business are you in? What season of business are you in right now? And who do you want to learn from? Do you like my personality? Do you like this person's personality? And they can pick and choose. And it's brand new. I haven't seen anything on the market. You guys are hearing it like the detail behind the scenes.
I love it. It's amazing because I feel like so many new entrepreneurs, what they do lack is community, right? I mean, sometimes when you buy a course and you go through it, it's very lonely. And even though there may be like a community behind it, having that opportunity to pick the brains of so many people that have already been there in such a cool, hip way and where everyone just feels safe and comfortable, it just sounds so amazing. So is this already live? Can people go to it now?
Yes, absolutely. So you can go to planfor6figures/C-suite. And the idea is your plan for whatever level of six figures you're reaching for. So does that look like a six-figure day, a six-figure month, a six-figure quarter, a six-figure year? It's just the idea that we're making a plan for that chunk of cash that we want to bring into our life that we want to manifest. So www.planfor6figures.com/C-suite.
Awesome. And I'll also leave that in the show notes as well. So, Jodi, this has been amazing. I mean, it's funny because we started off with alignment. We went into how, for you personally, you had your own limiting beliefs, right? And now you're in this position where you're helping other people bust through that in this no bullshit, cutthroat way where you're like, hey, we have no time for your excuses, right? We have no time for that. And so, thank you so much for being on the show, for sharing your expertise and just really being vulnerable and honest with everyone. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.